Alarms tore through the ship before I even opened my eyes. Red light flooded my quarters. A voice on the speaker shouted that an unknown vessel had entered firing range, and every station needed to be ready in under 2 minutes. I rolled out of bed and my hand hit something warm and soft. A small cat, curled where my pillow used to be, opened one eye and let out a tiny, annoyed sound. I had found her 3 weeks ago, half-starved, hiding inside a broken supply crate on a dead moon. I had not planned to keep her. I had not planned for any of this. I scooped her up, pulled on my boots and ran. The corridor outside my room was already full of movement. Tall alien crew members rushed past me in both directions, plates of armor clicking against metal walls. These were Keithrani, a warrior species I had lived among for almost a year, ever since my own transport ship was destroyed and they picked me up as the only survivor. I still did not speak their language well. I still did not fully understand their customs. But I understood the sound of danger, and this ship was full of it right now. A young engineer named Oliver nearly crashed into me at the corner. He steadied himself, looked at the cat in my arms, and something in his face changed instantly, like fear had been replaced by pure focus. "Get to the lower deck," he said. "Now we will hold the line." "What is happening?" I asked, my voice shaking more than I wanted it to. "Raiders," he said. "They want the cargo. They will not care if this ship survives or not." He did not wait for my reply. He turned and sprinted toward the weapons bay, shouting orders to 2 other crew members as he went. I held the cat tighter and moved the way he told me, down a narrow stairwell that led toward the lower storage deck. The ship shook violently under my feet. Somewhere above me, something exploded, and the lights flickered before steadying again. The cat dug her claws into my sleeve but did not make a sound. She had learned somehow that silence meant safety. At the bottom of the stairwell, I found Grace, one of the ship's medics, already setting up emergency supplies along the wall. She looked up when she saw me and rushed over, guiding me toward a reinforced corner of the room. "Stay here," she said. "This is the safest point on this deck." "What about you?" I asked. "I have work to do," she said simply, and turned back to her supplies. I sat down against the wall, my heart pounding, the cat pressed against my chest. Through the thin metal above us, I could hear the sound of the ship's main cannons firing, one after another, shaking dust loose from the ceiling. I had never been this close to real combat before. I had never felt this small. A crackle came through the speaker system built into the wall beside me. It was the captain's voice, low and steady even through the chaos. "All hands hold formation. Protect the lower deck at any cost. The small one is down there." I froze. The small one. That was what they called my cat. I had heard it before in passing without understanding what it truly meant to them. Now, hearing the captain say it in the middle of an attack with real danger pressing against the hull, I understood that it was not just a nickname. It was an order, a priority. Grace noticed my expression and crouched beside me for a moment. "You still do not understand, do you?" she said. "Understand what?" "What you did when you saved her," Grace said. "Where we come from, protecting something small, something that gives you nothing back without asking for a reward, that is the rarest thing a person can do. Most never do it in their whole lives. You did it without thinking twice." Before I could answer, the ship lurched hard to one side, and something heavy crashed against the outer hull, close enough that the sound rattled through my bones. Grace grabbed the edge of a supply crate to keep her balance, then was gone again, moving toward the stairwell to help wherever she was needed. I stayed pressed against that wall for what felt like forever, though it was probably only minutes. The cat had buried her face against my arm, trembling slightly, and I found myself whispering to her, telling her it would be fine, even though I had no idea if that was true. Then the ship's cannon stopped firing. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. I strained to hear anything, footsteps, voices, an explanation. Instead, All I heard was my own breathing and the faint hum of the ship's systems trying to stabilize. Finally, the speaker crackled again. Enemy vessel disabled, threat neutralized, all crew report status. A wave of relief hit me so hard my hands started shaking. The cat lifted her head and looked around, as if she too understood the danger had passed. Footsteps approached the stairwell, heavy and fast. Horak, the ship's senior gunnery officer, appeared first, his armor scorched along one shoulder but otherwise steady on his feet. Behind him came Oliver, then two more crew members I recognized from the mess hall. They all stopped when they saw me, and every one of them lowered their head slightly, the same gesture of respect I had first seen weeks ago outside my quarters. "You are safe," Horak said. It was not a question. "I am," I said. "Is everyone else safe?" "Minor injuries only," he said. "No losses." I let out a breath I did not know I had been holding. Grace returned a moment later, wiping her hands on a cloth, and gave me a small nod to confirm what Horak had already said. The ship, it seemed, had come through the attack in one piece, and so had everyone on it. It was only later, once the corridors had returned to their normal quiet hum, and the emergency lights switched back to soft white, that I finally understood the full weight of what had happened. I made my way to the observation deck, the cat trotting along beside me now that the danger had passed, and found the captain standing alone, looking out at the stars. He turned when he heard me approach. Even after months aboard this ship, his presence still made me feel small, but not in a frightening way anymore. More like standing next to something ancient and steady, something that had survived far worse than one attack. "You held the crew together today," he said, before I could speak. "I did not do anything," I said. "I hid in a corner with a cat." "You misunderstand your own value," he said. "Every crew member on this ship fought harder today because they knew you and the small one were below deck, waiting to be protected. That is not nothing. That is everything a crew needs in the middle of battle. A reason worth fighting for that is bigger than orders." I did not know how to respond to that. I looked down at the cat, now curled comfortably near my feet, completely unaware of the danger she had somehow become the center of. "She is just a cat," I said quietly. "She is family," the captain said. "And so are you. That is not a small thing on this ship. That is the largest thing there is." I stood there for a long moment, letting the weight of his words settle over me. For most of my life, I had been alone, first on my old ship, then stranded among strangers who did not speak my language or share my customs. I had never expected that saving one small, starving animal would change how an entire crew of alien warriors saw me. I had never expected to matter this much to anyone, let alone to a ship full of people who once looked at me like an outsider they were simply required to protect. Now, after everything, after the alarms and the explosions and the silence that followed, I understood something I had been too afraid to admit before. This ship was not just a place I was surviving on anymore. It was home. These people, strange as they still were to me, were not just my protectors. They were mine in the same way I had somehow become theirs. The cat stretched, stood, and walked over to rub against my leg, completely unbothered by the events of the last hour. I picked her up and held her close, feeling my own heartbeat finally begin to slow. Outside the window, the stars stretched on endlessly, calm and unaware of the danger that had just passed. Somewhere behind me, footsteps approached again, and I turned to see Oliver, Grace, and several others gathering quietly on the observation deck, none of them saying much, all of them simply choosing to stand near me instead of returning straight to their quarters. Nobody explained why. Nobody needed to. I understood now. I was not just a passenger anymore, not just someone they were obligated to keep safe because of some old agreement. Somewhere between finding a starving cat on a dead moon and surviving an attack meant to end this ship for good, I had become something else entirely to every person standing around me. I had become the reason worth protecting. And for the first time since losing everything I once knew, I did not feel alone at all.